Hello, everyone. Today I have another guest for my show. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Roy Carl. I am a project manager in construction.
What kind of construction do you do?
The company I work for, we build commercial freezers and coolers. So basically, what that is, we build freezers and coolers for frozen food. There's also an application where the panels that we use, which are insulated metal panels. They are basically light gauge metal that is sandwiched with insulation. In most cases, it's urethane insulation, which when it's cut is a very fine, dusty powder.
Okay.
So it can be a little annoying working with those. But it essentially is what allows a building to stay cold and cool no matter the location of the building.
All right. If someone's looking for your field, where are they going to be looking for job opportunities? Where are you at?
We have a website where we get that, and then also word of mouth, where most of our employees probably come through as word of mouth and or working in another field in the construction, and they hear about us and they become interested in the field. We've had people just walk up and look for a job, and we've had people apply online just through searches.
Before someone starts working in refrigeration construction, what type of things should they have before they even start looking into getting into this field?
In order to be decent at the work that we do, some basic carpentry skills are essential. If you're able to read a tape measure, know how to use some basic hand tools like impact drills, saws, and stuff like that. If you can use those types of items, you've got the basics to start in the field.
Right. Is there like a training that your company sends people to, or that other companies might send them to, or is this something that they would pick up in another form of construction, or what's the lead up?
Essentially, for the company that I work for, we just do on-site training.
Okay.
We will start you out if you come on and you've had no construction experience. We would essentially start you out doing the gopher work. Go get this, go get that. Helping with caulking, which would be caulking of the panels, which when you caulk the lips of these panels, because they're interlocking lips, the caulk prevents airflow going in and out. Because if you did not have that caulk in there, when you have the interlocking lips on the panels, air would get in there. And when you have hot air go to cold air, you go in on the inside of the building, which some of these are freezers, you would have ice build up. And you do not want this. You need a vapor seal, which means you keep the air inside from going outside and the outside air coming inside. That's what vapor seal.
Okay.
That is very essential. If you have ice on the inside of the freezer, you've got a problem.
All right. So that's kind of like that ice buildup in your home refrigerator.
In a way, yes.
Much
On a grander
larger.
scale.
The next phase after getting that initial training, what would someone expect to learn, or maybe perhaps get involved in while they're
Basically,
advancing?
after we started you out with doing the basic stuff, you'd help handling the maneuvering the panels. We'd some cases we use like on a interior building where we're doing a partition wall, which would be basically a wall that would divide two rooms. We would use a cool boy, which is essentially a giant suction cup. We would put it on a jib on a forklift. We'd put the panels down, which are usually laying horizontally. We put the suction cup in the middle, turn it on, let it attach to the panel, pick it up, you rotate it, and you can just kind of maneuver with your hands because it's got a grip that well on the panels that unless you really mess up, the panel will not fall. So then you just maneuver over the forklift over where you need to put it in the track or whatever. Maybe it's a 40-foot tall panel where you're having to maneuver around the bar joist, or maybe it's a 10-foot panel. You just put it down on some track and someone at the top would screw the two lips of the two panels together where they interlock, and then you go get the next one. So then we would have you start doing stuff like that. And then the trim would be in the case of what we call a box in a box, to give an example, where we'd have panels that would essentially make a box, 4 walls, and you put a IMP panel ceiling on top of that. And then where the IMP wall and the ceiling panel intersect, on the inside, you'd have trim, which is just light gauge metal. You screw it to the panels. On the outside, you'd also pretty much do the same thing to cover up the exposed foam insulation of the panels. So that's something that would probably be the next step up where you start learn how to do that. And it would just expand from there. And eventually you may even be, if you're able to read a tape measure well, and also understand when we are working on, say, a partition wall, you have a bar joist and you wall is going up to the bottom of the deck. You would need to notch out around the bar joist. So essentially what we'd have is the previous panel is already set and you have the bar joist over. Let's say you put your tape measure up there on the previous panel, you measure over to, say the bar joist is here, measured over, and like right here, it may be 11 inches. And over here, it's like 14 inches. So you want to allow enough room to slot the panel up in there. So you basically need to get over there because these panels have a long lip and a short lip. So you need to have enough room to allow the long lip to get past the bar joist well enough that when you pushed it over, it would lock into the female lip of the panel. So you would allow enough room on that bar joist. So you'd say maybe go 9 inches. And then over here you got 14, maybe make it 16 inches. So you'd make a notch, pull off the panel 9 inches over 16, and then make it the depth of the bar joist you need. And you cut that square out. Take that part of the panel out, and you suction cup it again, and then put it up in there and lock it in. That would involve a little bit more work because you're having to take measurements and or mark the measurements with the pencil. You don't want to use a marker when you're making these because you make mistakes. Measure twice, cut once is a saying. So you use a pencil and a tape measure to mark out the panel, then cut it. That would probably be high end, I would say, carpentry skills, but it's not that high end either. It's not hard what we do. It just takes a little bit of getting used to and getting the flow of the work.
Right. So is this the stage in which you'd start branching out into things beyond, say, an
Once
apprentice
you have
level?
the basic skills down and you've worked with us for a couple of years, and you start understanding why you need to do certain things,
Mhm.
then you can start moving on and becoming a job foreman, where
Okay.
you would run jobs, telling others what to do, and making sure the scope of work, which is what you have in your contract, that will determine what you have to do on that job. Every job is different.
Mhm.
Every job is different. They may be carbon copies of buildings in this location, which I have done, a carbon copy in this location in Cartersville, Georgia. And then there's another one, carbon copy in Gainesville, Georgia. Two different locations, though, site locations, could require different things that you would need to do.
Okay.
It could be scheduling, weather, all kinds of things. So every job is different. You cannot cookie cutter these things.
Right.
You might have a cookie cutter basic outline, but still day-to-day operations, every job is different.
Okay. So what goes into some of the planning here?
When you're a job foreman, you basically would get a set of drawings, and the superintendent would get with you and kind of explain, here's what we're doing, here's the basic idea, maybe give you an idea where to start. On some of these locations, the general contractor would also have a superintendent on site who rubs the job overall and all the subcontracting trades. We are a subcontractor. So we would essentially kind of report to them, and they may have a certain spot they need us to start in first,
Mhm.
or maybe there's only one spot where we can start in, because some of the buildings we work on, they have to have steel up in a certain area before we can attach our panels to. And that's an exterior panel job. Can't put panel up, you don't have anything to attach it to. And also with an inside job, what we would call a box in the box, where we're not outside in the elements, we're inside the building. We would need a roof that is dried in, basically meaning that if it rained, water would not get in the building,
Oh, okay.
because you do not want water in these panels before you put them up, because if they do, they can leak, cause ice, and it's just a bad problem. So you want a dried in roof before you put any panels up on the inside of a building.
So is that leakage because of the materials that's used to keep the insulation you're talking about, or?
If the panels were to get wet in that insulation, it could freeze up and cause weight issues on the panels. And if you go put those up and they get cold, cause ice, problems. And then also just, you don't want to build a ceiling, be done with it, and then it rains and you have a puddle of water up on top of your ceiling that you just installed. Then what you got to do? Scrape it all off, and then you're going to have to worry about leaks, because water will eventually somehow work its way down through the panels, and you'll keep going back to knock down ice, find issues, etc. So you do not want that situation. That is just bad all around. So do not do that.
Got it. When looking for this kind of job and getting into it, what kind of culture or environment would one expect to get into?
Well, it's construction. So it's different from, say, 9 to 5 jobs, at least in the context of the field workers. They can be living in Atlanta, Georgia, and then work on a job in Miami, Florida, or even go up north, it's like some of our guys do, to Massachusetts. So you would be away from home from anywhere from 10 days at a time to a month at a time. Some of these guys would work a month away from home, maybe get Sundays off. So they're working 6 days a week. So if you have a family and you don't want to be away from them a long time, this may not be the best field for you to be in. It's definitely something where you will be able to get used to being out of town.
What's
a
about the
lot.
range that someone would expect to be out of town for the amount of time?
It would depend on the company. Some companies, like the previous company that I worked for, which was sold into the company that I work for now, we would work 10 days on, 4 days off in the field. So we would start on a Monday, work 10 days, which would be 2 Wednesdays after that Monday. Then we take Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Then we go back. So we work 10 days on, 4 days off. That was the out of town job. But if we had a job where we were working in the Atlanta, Georgia area, we work Monday through Friday, 7 to 5:30.
Right.
So it depends on where you're at, where the job's at, and the company.
Got you. Continuing on with the culture, like what kind of people would you expect to encounter in this field?
You will have a wide range of people in the construction field. You'll have young guys coming in, just first job ever. And then you'll have the old hands who have been around for a long time, working in the business for decades, and they pretty much know everything. So you'll have a mix of everybody as far as age. You'll have a mix of cultures. You'll see some construction crews would be of a particular background because they got someone in and they brought in people and they kept bringing in people. So you might see some groups just because of the situation they were in. It's very chaotic on some jobs where you won't see just one particular group of people or age group. You'll see a wide variety of types. So you'll get all kinds of personalities and cultures mixed in. So there's not any one per se. It's a mix of everything.
All right. Would you say the environment's usually family friendly, welcoming? Is it kind of a boys' club?
In the construction field, it will definitely boil down to the company you're working for because some jobs can be very, very much a boys' club. And then some companies may be very welcoming. It all depends on the construction company you are looking into. So do your research, but also be prepared for something that you may not like.
Right.
So be aware of that.
Going back to the traveling, I meant to ask, where do you stay when you're traveling? Is it put up by a company? Are you
That
paying
is
for it and getting
also very
reimbursed?
company dependent. Like the company I previously worked for, we would have hotels provided for by the company.
Mhm.
And then the company we work for now is kind of a mix of 4 different companies that were bought and kind of all glued together. So we have different groups or branches or divisions. We have a group out of Jacksonville, Florida. They did things where they would pay their guys a certain amount of money per day that would be higher than what we would get, but they had to pay for their own hotel rooms out of that money they were given.
Right.
Where our guys, we had our hotel rooms provided for us, but we got less daily per diem because our rooms were being paid for. So it depends on the company. And mileage for driving from your home to the job site, or it may even be where it's from the office to the job site. Depends on the company. Very company dependent. So the rates there and where you're getting paid mileage from would also depend on the company you're with. So it's, like I said, it's very company dependent.
You're talking mileage, so that means you're going to be driving yourself to these jobs. Let's say if
Yes,
you're
you would. Most cases, you drive your own personal vehicle to the job site. Some companies may provide vehicles for, say, superintendents, which my previous company did. They had superintendents had their own company vehicle that they would drive. They had company cars, so they pay for the gas, but it was intended for company use. But they would still drive it to the job sites, to the office to pick up materials, go back, do various errands needed for the company. But it was a company paid for vehicle and provided for. So not every company would do that. Matter of fact, the company we're with now, our superintendents, I believe, are the only ones who have company vehicles because the company before me had those and they've just kind of kept them and kept them running.
oh, so they just got assumed into the company since
They were kind of
purchased it.
grandfathered in, yes.
That makes sense. So it's a pretty good benefit to have the vehicles. Speaking of benefits, what kind of benefits would one possibly expect in the field?
Very, very dependent on company. The
Mm.
company I worked for previously, the year before we were sold, we just had got 2 weeks paid vacation. Previous to that, we only got 1 week's paid vacation, but we were also a small family-owned business. And now the company I work for, I was grandfathered in at a higher rate because of years I'd served with the previous company. I now get 4 weeks PTO. We get 10 days that are paid holidays. We have bereavement, and our health benefits are much better than the previous company because they have the ability to provide that. So the company I work for now, as far as in the construction field, I believe is very good when it comes to the benefits compared to most.
How so?
Well, like I said, the previous company I worked for, we only had 1 week PTO.
Right.
And that was no matter how many years you've been working there.
Is that normal for most construction companies, or?
Some construction companies, like subcontractors, will probably would be on the lower end of PTO,
Mhm.
whereas the company I work for is on the high end, especially for the states. The one general contractor, they have a leave of absence, let's say, for a month, where every so many years they literally tell you you take a month off from work and you are not responsible for anything during that time. So again, it would depend on the company, but they are a large general contractor, so they have the ability and the manpower to do such a thing and not have any holes to fill. They may have to bring in someone to take care of a job site while this person is on their sabbatical or such, whatever word you want to use. So that might be the only thing they have to do. But otherwise, every few years, they have a whole month where they are not working because they are pretty much told to take it off so that they don't burn their people out.
Just kind of disappear. All right. What about other benefits? Medical, dental, retirement.
We do have medical. We have a 401k.
In going through the work, what are some of the hardships that some of the employees might expect to come across, aside from like
As
the
far as
road
field
trips? And
work or office work, because it's two different ball games.
either one. Let's hear them both.
In the field, you're basically working the elements: hot, cold, wind, rain, mud,
Mhm.
snow, sleet, any condition you can think of. You can be working in the middle of Florida in the middle of summer, or you can be working up north in the middle of winter.
Mm.
So elements right there off the bat.
Yeah.
You can be working out in the middle of nowhere and not have very many things available. So you might have to provide your own food because the choices for restaurants might be very minimal. Or you might have to drive a good distance to get food.
Mhm.
Same for hotel. The nearest hotel might be 30 minutes away from the job site. I've been in that situation before when I was still in the field. Now, versus the office people, they're office people. They will have an off roof over their head, air conditioning, but they also might have to deal with going into a big city and have to deal with traffic and going to the same place, looking at the same four walls every day.
Right.
So it depends on what you kind of want in your life. Do you want to work out in the side and the elements and you're okay with that? Or do you want the 9 to 5 where you have the basic set schedule, but you're doing the same thing almost every day?
In the traveling, talking about being in the elements, what kind of protections are there? Like, are there safety concerns with heat and cold?
For
Is
us,
equipment provided?
we do try to take care of the people in the field. As far as if you're working in the hot sun, we do take breaks, cooling breaks. We provide water. We do not want anybody falling out. It's definitely something that just makes sense. And in the opposite, in the wintertime, we try to keep people warm, go warm yourself up. And the one thing that can kill us on an exterior job that will shut us down is the wind.
Mm.
Because if you're working on the exterior building, more than likely the panels you're working with are probably at least 40 foot long, maybe 50, 67 foot. So if you're using a cool boy or a boom truck to bring those panels up and the wind's kicking around, it does not take much for a 4 foot wide, 40 foot long panel to start spinning like a top. So high winds will shut us down quicker than anything else. Also, thunderstorms, which you don't want to be outside when it's lightning and operating a big giant lightning rod called a boom truck. You're asking for trouble. And there are some jobs now, the general contractor will have notifications set up on their phones or laptop or whatever. When there's lightning within a set distance, they will shut the job down and tell everybody to get off the roofs, go inside, and get safe. I've been on jobs before where we've had to do that, where we It may only last 30 minutes, or it may be, well, here's 2 hours to go when still the rain's still coming, so you just call it a day.
That makes sense because then you're just working on kicking the project back up, and then uh, the amount of time that it takes you to start back up and then maybe tear down, I guess, or
It, some situations where it may be beneficial to just go ahead and call it a day because the time spent getting set back up would be just enough time to do nothing before it's quitting time. So it's very depending on when and how long the situation would require. There's a lot of unknowns that you have to deal with because of situations like that.
right. What are some of the job titles or positions or areas of work that you have within the refrigerator community?
We commonly refer to it as the cold storage community.
Cold
So
storage.
it's not so much refrigeration because refrigeration is handled by another company where they handle the refrigeration units
Uh,
and stuff. So they would be like the air conditioning people of the things where we're building up the walls that provide the insulation. So it's two different branches, same kind of business.
okay.
I, for myself, started in the field in '03 as the basic gopher. Go get this, go get that. Then after several years where we didn't really expand the company, we kind of stayed the same and we had the same guy staying there. So there really wasn't anywhere to go up until some of the job foremans either left for various reasons or we lost them, unfortunately. So eventually I became a job foreman in 2017. And then I was job foreman when the company was sold in the December of 2021. And then 3 months later, I was asked by the previous owner of the company if I wanted to come into the office and help him as a project manager. So I went into the office and was considered an assistant project manager by the new company. And then just as last year, I was promoted to full-time project manager instead of assistant. So there's a structure of you would be basic carpenter, job foreman, superintendent, and that's your field. And then you go into the office where you'd have assistant project managers and or project managers. And then the project managers, which I am, would report to the higher ups in the company, the salesman, so to speak, and also the project managers of the general contractor of the job site you're doing with. That's kind of the chain there. So they would kind of report up to me in a way, but then I would sidestep over to the general contractor side and kind of report to them as well. Because project manager's job is basically playing a middleman between the general contractor and your company, and also playing politician and firefighter and multitasker while on a unicycle. It's a very interesting job where you have to be able to multitask and switch from one task to another very quickly because you might be working on this job for 30 minutes, then something comes up on another job that is an emergency you got to take care of. You have to be able to switch gears very quickly.
Right.
So if you have trouble switching gears and are focusing on certain things, you may have an issue in the field where you have to quickly adapt to whatever situation comes up.
What about the relationships between your company and other, like do you have contractor providers, or you mentioned that cold storage works with
The
refrigeration as well?
Since we are a subcontracting company, we usually work with general contractors. So general contractors they're the ones who work directly with the owners of the buildings. The owners of the buildings would put out, I want this building built, and they would go out and let the general contractors bid on the job. And generally it goes to lowest bid gets the job, unless that contractor's got a bad reputation or the owner wants a certain contractor. They may just go directly to them. Very dependent. And then the salesman, our company, would work with the general contractor. So the general contractor would win the job from the owner. They may have already gotten the bid from our salesman. And if that general contractor gets the job, we are then working with that general contractor on the job because that general contractor won the bid with the owner. Or it could be a thing where they have not gotten a bid from our salesman yet, and they already have the job because the owner wants to work directly with the general contractor. So then they would go out and ask other subcontractors to bid and then choose from those salesmen there. So it may be a situation where this general contractor has the bid with the owner, and then the GC asks 3 or 4 different cold storage companies to bid on this job. So then we would be competing against those companies to win the bid.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of back and forth and kind of spreads out a little bit in certain spots, like the branches of a tree.
All right. Roy, does your company also look for these jobs themselves, or these just kind of land in
Yes,
your laps?
there are conventions, trade shows, things of that sort that our salesmen would go to make basically network
Mhm.
and talk with others in the business. General contractors show up to these things so they can make relationships with those people at the general contracting companies. So when the general contractor gets a thing that they know our company can work with them on, they can say, "Hey, I know this guy." They can call him up, get him the information, and then we can see about bidding on that job. So it's
All right.
definitely a thing where you got to know people in order to get to work.
Okay. So some of this is networking as far as
Yes, very
business
much so.
networking, making sure that you've got
Yes.
those connections. All right. And what about the customers? The relationship with the customers, what's that like?
For us, generally speaking, we don't have direct contact with the owners in most cases.
Okay.
Usually it's through the general contractor, but in some cases, depending on if the owner is very involved in the process, we might have direct work with them. Or there may be times where we're not working with the general contractor at all and we're working directly with the company. I have a job coming up soon where I am working directly with the company and not a general contractor. So I'm dealing directly with the representative of that company. So depends on the situation. The owners, for the most part, we do not deal with them directly. Every now and then we'll have one that's involved and we'll deal with directly.
Mm. The sizes of the units that you're building for cold storage, is there a smallest or largest?
Generally speaking, they can range in size from something you would see in, say, a Quick Trip to a warehouse for large grocery stores like Publix, Kroger, or even Dollar General, where you're building something that is hundreds of linear feet long as far as the building. So your square footage of your buildings would be very high. Just depends on what the needs are for the company that you're working with and the location. In some locations around the city of Atlanta, you might be dealing with small jobs as far as inside the perimeter. But if you go outside and to the west or even South Georgia, where we've worked multiple jobs, we may be working on multiple thousands of square foot buildings
Mm.
instead of just a couple hundred square feet.
Right.
So generally speaking, a small job for us would be in the neighborhood of $150,000 overall for the entire cost, which may not sound like much, but it's still a decent little size building. Now, when we start getting to in the $1 million jobs, that's where we start seeing some linear footage of a couple hundred feet per wall instead of just a few hundred feet total.
Right.
So the size of the buildings greatly depends on the square footage and the type of work you're having to work around. Where if we're just putting up some walls outside of a building, it's pretty straightforward. Put the walls up. But if you're working inside of a plant that's already got equipment in place, the price can skyrocket because not so much the material being used, but the labor it would take to put the panels up around the already installed equipment.
Oh, because of the complexity of the job.
It's a complex task versus just putting up a wall. You might have to work yourself over multiple conveyor belts and et cetera, and have to have special equipment to be able to allow you to do that.
So, Roy, where do you see the future of this cold storage going? Is there going to be perhaps some changes in the future? Is it
There's
going to be
definitely changes in the field going on right now. We have not been involved with them that much, but a lot of warehouses are going towards automation as far as their picking ability. So the abilities in these buildings, instead of going out wider, they're going up.
okay?
Air is free. Land cost. So if you go up higher, they're stacking these buildings up to 50, which is normal height now. Now they're doubling that and going up to 100 feet, and they have automated machinery in these buildings to do the picking for them. So it allows them to pack more into it because you're not having to drive a forklift operated by humans, because a forklift needs much wider aisles to pick the material off of these racks, because you have to be able to move the forklift in, pick it up, back out, bring it back down, and drive off.
Mm,
Whereas if you have an automated building, you just need something wide enough to go down through there, pick it, break it down. You don't need as much room. So you can
right.
get more in there, which allows you to stock more, and you have more in your building that you can charge storage for.
Oh, okay. Are there any other changes that you've seen or can
One thing
project?
that's in a general item for the entire construction field is the construction field. The guys out in the field is getting older. We do not have as many younger folks coming into the business. So the workforce is getting older, and we're not getting enough replacements in to replace them as they leave.
So job opportunity is pretty high in this field.
Yes, if you are able to take the heat and et cetera, the elements, you should be able to pretty much pick where you want if you do your research.
Do you think there are any changes that could work against this field coming up soon or
I don't think so off the top of my head because at the end of the day, people have to eat.
right?
And that's just one facet of the business. We also do one division of our company works with clean rooms. So it may not be food related, it may be medical field related. We also do a lot of work with car dealerships where we use architectural panels, which are not, they're still insulated metal panels, but they're meant to look nice and require more precision when you're installing them versus a insulated metal panel. It's just the outside of a freezer.
Right.
So there's multiple applications for the panels. Just depends on what the needs are, from cold storage to chicken plants, where they have stainless steel panels for washdown areas, to clean rooms, to architectural panels that make the building look nice.
Okay. So this is not just a facade, or is it just a facade sort of situation where it's just for looks?
And the architectural panels that a lot of our guys do up north, where the main office for our company is, they are literally just panels to make the buildings look nice. Whereas down in the south, we were pretty much purely cold storage and or working with chicken plants where they would require stainless steel washdown areas. And one ability of the stainless steel panels is you can use those.
Okay. So the water just runs right off. They're easy to
Yes, you
clean.
can relatively easy to clean. You need to use stainless steel panels, which are more expensive. And then you would have to use food grade caulk to caulk the joints. Otherwise, when you start washing these down, they would get in the cracks and you'd eventually have a problem.
All right. So Roy, do you have any other last minute things that you think that perhaps I've missed in this or that you'd want to express to someone who's thinking about getting into this field?
If you're looking to become a project manager in any field, you have to have certain skills that would relate to being able to do basic math. You have to be able to do budgets. In my younger days, you would say balancing a checkbook. You had the ability to do that, you would be able to do well. That's not so much a thing these days, balancing a checkbook like we did in the old days.
Right.
But you have to be able to be good at decent. You have to be you don't have to do geometry or calculus. It's basic math skills, basic communication skills, and you have to be able to keep a level head because there's definitely some people in the business that would drive you up the wall and could be hotheads, and you have to be able to keep a even tone with them and not get hot yourself. So you need to have a bit of politician in you. The ability to work as a team, or work with a team, and the ability to do more than what you were hired for, as far as you may be asked to do your basic job, but then you might have to become a quick expert in something that you have nothing to know about because of a certain situation where you might have to go get some basic information because of a condition on a site.
Okay.
So the ability to learn more than what your field is would be helpful.
Would you think there's more information that someone would want to know if they wanted to get into cold storage in general that we didn't cover?
Well, at the end of the day, it's just a different type of construction. It's not anything special, highly specialized. It's just a different type of construction. It's more niche than, say, building a house. There may be umpteen companies that'll build a house, but only a handful that would be able to build a cold storage building because it's more niche. So most people wouldn't even know it's an insulated metal panel unless they had an idea of what one looked like beforehand. You might be going down the interstate, look over, see a building, have no clue it's an insulated metal panel building. A lot of people do not even know what those are unless they've had someone explain it to them.
Well, Roy, I appreciate your time. Thank you for sitting down with me, having this interview.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.